Okay, thanks for being here, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
No worries. I wanted to start off with you, Ben, obviously. Triple J Live version came out yesterday. A pretty great rendition of I Miss You, Blink-182. Was that always the track, if you ever had a chance, that you were going to do?
I think I demoed a lot of songs for it, and poor Adam had to listen to them all. But it was one of the first ones I did, and then as I was demoing more and more songs, I got more adventurous and was sort of pulling things that are like way out of our wheelhouse and then pulling them into it. But as I said yesterday in the Triple J interview, I was like, we kind of realised the gravity of the situation the closer we got, and you really have to live with it for a long time, and you have to play it on tour. And so I was like, let's just do something that we love, you know. And I think it was for the best because it probably bleeds through in the performance a bit when you really feel something about the song, as opposed to, say, pulling something that's charted well where you think is will. So yeah, that was the thinking.
Yeah, great. It's a good foundation for why we do it, hey? Yeah, totally. Great. Sabby, I just wanted to ask you about, to give us a bit of you obviously work with Concord, you work with your own management and publicity company. Can you sort of give me a bit of a background of what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I started at Concord ANZ, formerly known as Native Tongue, almost 12 years ago as an intern. Luckily enough to kind of weasel my way in and learn as much as possible so they could never get rid of me. While I was doing that as well, I was trying to set up my own company in publicity and management, and you know, I feel very grateful to work full-time at Concord while also running my own business, you know, on weekends, after hours, lunch breaks, and have the pleasure of working with two singer-songwriters, Melbourne-based Alexander Biggs and Tim Hunt.
Every single hour in the day?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Live and breathe it.
Yeah, totally. And Adam as well. Now, you did carpool this morning with Ben, so I imagine you've got a pretty good relationship. When did you know that you wanted to work with Ben?
Oh, a good question. Hi everyone, I'm Adam. We've been friends for quite a while. I was in a band previously in another life, and Ben was also in another band in another life.
Yes, we've spent a bit of time in the tour band
So
together.
we knew each other quite
It's a
well.
good foundation there.
I was working at an agency in 2017, which I left to start Four Tone, and I think we were just in touch fairly regularly. Just in general, Ben would sort of ask, he had an agent, I think, but he would still ask me a lot of questions around why should we do this gig, and I thought that was a bit odd because he had an agent, so there was sort of, you know, we had that kind of relationship already.
Scandalous.
And then, I guess, I can't remember exactly what happened. We went for a beer, I think, in Brunswick somewhere, and I was like, we're starting a new agency, fuck it, let's do it, you know, come over, and, you know, I already knew it well, so it was a no-brainer for us.
Yeah, totally. I guess that leads into the next question. We're not all blessed to start with agents and a full team when we begin, so you would have knocked out a few hours of DIY. So,
absolutely,
yeah. So do you want to sort of speak to how long you sort of did it all yourself, what that looked like for you?
It was quite a while. I think it was a good few years there. I used to play drums in bands before slowly, so that was kind of the first jump I made to vocals and guitar. And being the drummer, I guess it's maybe lower down on the decision-making things in terms of democracy sometimes.
Yeah.
And so I had a fairly backseat approach to how the bands were tracking. And then when it was my turn to, you know, stake my claim was slowly, it was I felt a real onus over the project, obviously. And then, so I started to build that personality of a bit of a control freak around everything. And that, I think, was a strength in the beginning, in that everything sort of had the same look and feel because it all had to pass through myself. So as difficult as it was in those DIY moments, it was like, I look upon it quite fondly, and I think it was really instrumental to maybe the longevity of our band.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was. The other members of Slowly are like not. They're fantastic soundboards, but not maybe as involved in the decision making day to day as like I think I really value our team for that. I never really had that, so when we started pulling together, even just like designers and people early on, photographers and videographers at shows and stuff like that. As much as like an agent and manager and stuff, that DIY scene is really built on like the other creatives, and so kind of leaning on those people. I'd never done that before outside of the band, and totally important.
Yeah, for sure. Now it's interesting when the three of you standing here this morning having a coffee and a chat, and I'm thinking to myself, how often do you all get together? Do you see each other in person? Sammy, do you want to speak to that?
It's been a while since I've seen Adam. One of the really interesting things about the music industry is just how your different paths cross. I feel very privileged in my position to have known Adam in different ways prior to, the relationship and working relationship with Ben, and, even how I got involved with Ben's music. Like, I was a fan first. I actually went to he looks very surprised.
This just in.
Yeah, this just in. The 2016 album launch for Chamomile. And then 3 years later, he signed to the company that I work for. So, I think at the end of the day, like, I'm a music fan first and foremost, and feel very lucky to work for a music publisher because I'm able to support the artists that I've, grown up listening to or have, found that I've resonated with their albums or singles that they've made. I think, the last few years, especially COVID, everything's pivoted to online and emails and Zooms. While I don't necessarily talk to Adam and Ben every day, I'm in contact with Ben's manager, Dave Batty, and there's different ways that, we might not be in direct contact, but, information travels across the team and we're getting those regular updates, whether it be touring or co-writing, new music coming.
Yeah, totally. Is that similar for you as well, Adam? You're all part of the same team, but you are, you've got your own specialties, so...
For sure, yeah. Like, Sabi and I, for instance, we're not really in contact with the publishers that much. There's not a great deal of crossover between agent and publishing.
Yeah.
But, I guess I can speak to how often I'm in contact with Ben or Dave, who manages Ben, which is pretty much daily, multiple times a day. So when a band like Slowly, who's in cycle, touring, festivals coming up, they're constantly on cycle and have been since we started working, really. Like, you haven't really stopped in 5 years. So there's offers, there's tour routing, there's just general shit talking, and that comes along with being friends and being, part of the team. So it's a daily chat. It's, and face to face, it's pretty regular, like lunches and at shows and coffees and
great.
Yeah, and the lines are blurred. Again, I think this is a unique relationship Ben and I have because we're friends. So it's not the case with every act we work with, but in this particular instance, it's quite it's regular.
Comes easy.
It is. It's like just there's no rules as to how you work with every act, and this particular situation's a lot of contact.
Yeah, of course. And Ben, you've got a couple of great people sitting next to you from your team. When did you realise that you sort of needed that representation? Maybe when Slowly was picking up, or was it with a previous band that you just needed a bit of support?
I think making that jump as a local band, it's very mysterious how bands get international support slots and festivals. So that world it seems so mysterious, and you just don't know how to tackle it.
Yeah.
So that ceiling, when you hit it out of that more grassroots scene, is really frustrating. And having someone like Adam or our past manager Sarah, like, she helped facilitate that jump, and it was, I don't think we could have done it without the team. Yeah, it was instrumental.
Yeah, totally.
It's hard to get into those circles. I mean, it's you're not part. It doesn't matter how good your song is. Sometimes, like it's not really what it hinges off at the end of the day. A lot of it is being in the right network and the right place at the right time, and it's hard to be that as an artist, I think.
Yeah, totally. And Sabrina, what are some crucial things that you think an artist should know when they're trying to build their team?
I think it's, really about developing relationships. When I think about prior to when Ben signed to Concord in 2019, it didn't just happen overnight. With our managing director Jamie Goff and VP of A&R Matt Tanner, there's long-standing building of a relationship there with Ben and his wider team. It's about finding what type of writer Ben is and how, as a publisher, we can help and kind of build what it is he aspires to do in that space. I think in other elements, whether it's a manager, an agent, label, even publicist, every other kind of creative person you can think of, I think it's really how you develop and strengthen those relationships and getting them on board at the right time. Because you may, I feel like a booking agent for the type of music Slowly Create is a really vital person of the team, but a publisher might not make sense at the start. And it's about, when that right time to engage with a publisher or a label even. You might be interested in a label but not have recorded anything and not be ready to release.
Yeah. And maybe following on from that, existing relationships between artists and managers and booking agents can help in that way?
Definitely. I think the way that I look at a publisher as well, and our kind of relationship with the managers and the wider team, at the end of the day, Ben's current manager, Dave Batty, he hasn't signed the publishing deal with Concord, it's Ben. So I think it's very important that, while the manager is there to facilitate and kind of be the direct line of communication, that Ben feels like he has a team within the publishing company and at any point could contact any of us for questions. And while Dave Batty does an incredible job, I think it's really, I feel really proud that Ben knows us all and has relationships with the wider team, and it's not just the one person or two people who signed Ben, and over the years he's developed relationships with all of us.
Yeah, totally. And I guess once you start building a team and things are getting bigger, there's less time that you hold on to your ideas, and you've got to start putting things out there, going from DIY to working with a bigger team. So Ben, did you find that shift of, I don't want to book my own shows, I don't maybe want to look for any publishing deals, and just sort of relinquishing that, was that easier or was that kind of tough?
I found it easier as time's passed. I at the start had quite tight reins. I think maybe I confused the success that we'd had with it was because I had to suffer and do, you know what I mean? So I think you sometimes hold on to stuff really tightly because like if something changes, maybe I'll break the spell.
Yep.
But then as time has gone past, I have relinquished a lot of, I'm not a type A organised person. I'm like quite disorganised, I'm quite classically creative in that way. And so handing over things to Dave, to Adam, to Native, and the organisational side of things, it's only benefited me, developing that act of delegation has been a huge part of how we've been able to go from strength to strength. I don't think one person can facilitate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Adam, for you, if someone was to come to you and they wanted a booking agent, which a lot of people do.
Daily.
Daily. What advice would you give to writers and musicians and artists trying to find a booking agent?
That's a great question, Tim. And
sure you get
there's a lot of there's a lot of different answers. The main thing I would say is we always ask the artist to take a look, or the band, whoever it is, to take a look at where they're at in their career, and do they need a booking agent? Like, what are they going to get out? Like, I think it's important to, going back to Ben slowly, that they build a world, and that's something that we try and explain to people looking for an agent, or wherever they're at in their career, is just to make sure that they understand they've got to build a fan base first. Sometimes they think that getting an agent, they'll be on Splendor, they'll be on the next big thing, and that's not really the case. It's like they need to have something going on for us to, we're just one part of the team, you know. They need something else going on for us to sell through to festivals, international promoters, whatever it be. They just need to be, I guess they need to be ready, and it's a hard thing to face, I think, if you're a young artist, like, to maybe realising that maybe you're not ready for that. I think you have to have a real critical look at where you're at and what else you need to put in place, so when you get the manager, when you get the agent, when you get a publisher, they can do the work for you, because we're all working for the artist.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think it's important for them to recognise, like, what do they actually want from an agent, and how can the agent, help facilitate that?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you, Sabrina, a similar question, but it's a bit different in the publishing space. So, do you feel that, for example, working with Ben, do you come to Ben? Does Ben come to you? What would you recommend to writers emerging?
Yeah, so you're right, publishing is a very different space, but there's still quite a lot of similarities with what Adam said in terms of, what are you offering a publisher, and what can they offer you in terms of, enhancing what it is you're doing. Same with what Adam said, I think as you're building your team, you should be looking at how can they help take you to the next level? What is it that you've already been doing yourself that someone else can come and complement that? I think with publishing, the biggest advice I always have is it really is around building your own community. We often get, same with Adam, a lot of people approaching our A&R department expecting to easily be signed to a publishing deal, but it is about a long-standing relationship and developing your community within the songwriting space. I often will recommend to emerging artists, if the co-writing space is something that they're interested in, set up your own sessions with friends. Start to build, areas that if it is like writer-producer space that you're interested in pursuing, you can't expect, in the exact same way that Adam said about a booking agent, Splendor was his example, but you can't expect to be in the same room with Katy Perry next week. And it's about building your own skill set and developing it, and then approaching a publisher when you're ready and when you have examples of the work that you've created and your community around you. One of the things that I'm really proud about Concord is our A&R department really kind of encourages collaboration between our rosters.
Yeah.
But that's not to say, we're not encouraging our writers to go work with people that aren't signed to Concord, but it's a really, encouraging space to put artists and writers in rooms that may not have done that before, and just kind of building their skill set. And that's to say there's some writers and artists who don't want to co-write with other people and purely want to write their own songs, and that's completely fine as well.
Yeah, great. And the co-writing space is quite interesting. Ben, do you think from time to time about sort of who's Concord signed? Like, who might be next up for a bit of inspiration of who you might want to co-write with, or does co-writing interest you?
Yeah, definitely. I've done a fair bit of it, I'd say. Yeah, it was a part of the industry as well that seemed quite mysterious. Like, I grew up in, garage bands before the app GarageBand.
Yeah.
So it was I thought music was made, in isolation with your band members. I didn't understand that space. I don't think I probably understood what a producer did. So it was like, and when Concord, when we sort of came together. That was just after Big Sound, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt and Jamie we had a set at Crowbar in Brisbane, and it was like, I think we already had something to leverage at that point. But that relationship has been like probably one of the biggest growth components in my career. I think like opening my world to co-writing, and like just I had a bunch of half-baked, strange demos at the time, and when we signed to what was then Native Tongue, they probably never would have seen the light of day, but Matt and Jamie were really interested in this more electronic thing that I was doing, and they helped foster that, you know, and put me in like some co-writing sessions with some producers, and I was like super attentive with a lot of the producers, as opposed to like sitting back on the couch, and you know, I was really interested in how that world worked, and that has only led into all of my slowly writing side project and grad stuff. So like it's that world has really opened my eyes to songwriting. It's been great.
Yeah, totally. Adam, funny one for you. What do you wish that more people understood about your role?
Another great question, Tim. What do I wish more people understood? That it's not just getting on the phone and booking a tour and routing a tour. I think people don't quite realise, if you're not sort of in the world of like, if you're not part of the team, that without giving booking applicants too much kind of credit, there's a bit more going on. Like there's a lot more strategy involved in the career of the artist, really. Like in Australia, most acts, their main source of income is live. So that's we're directly responsible for a lot of artists' day-to-day living, I guess. So there's quite a bit of responsibility that comes with that. So I think that that's something that maybe gets lost a bit when people think that a booking agent's just yelling at promoters of asking for more money, which is a part of it, but it's not. But it's not all of it. There's a lot more strategy involved, and a lot. You know, there's long conversations about how to get artists from here, which is 50 cap rooms, to the Forum, and there's a long plan and a 2-3 year plan in place for that, and people might not understand that. I don't know. Some people might.
Yeah, see how it goes. One for you, Ben.
Yeah.
What's one of the best things that your team can do for you that you don't have to worry about?
Well, for me personally, as I said, I'm serially disorganised. So, but at the same time as I'm disorganised, I'm like extremely ambitious, and so being able to have a plan in place for that ambition, so that I don't feel, because it's easy as an artist to feel quite aimless at times. Like you spend a lot of the time writing in isolation, and maybe you feel like the cogs aren't moving, but then you get these like little breakthroughs every now and again. It doesn't feel like a constant progression of things. You have these wins, but just being mentally sound day to day, knowing that there's people that are responsible for a bigger plan, and they have a shape to your career, and they're worrying about the little details. It's like that for me is like such a comfort. Because I feel like it's there's too much work for just me to do. I don't know. I hope I managed to make my sleep a bit easier at night. Absolutely. And having it's really nice. Like I just feel the skill sets of Savvy, Adam, Dave, our manager. Like it surpasses my own. I don't think I could do a better job if I tried my very hardest in each of their fields. So it's like it really does help me sleep soundly at night. I can just focus on writing the music, which is I think what I'm best at. So
that's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
Savvy, you work as a sync manager
Yeah,
at Concord.
sure do.
So could you speak to what that involves?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I could touch on when we first signed Ben. My kind of key tasks there were to request all of the back catalogue audio and make sure our team had access to that, including lyrics. That was fun to chase Ben for.
As I said, I'm so
A few notebooks hidden under the bed, kind of thing.
And on that side, our copyright and royalties department were responsible for registering all the tracks with APRA AMCOS and putting our claim on those tracks. I was also at that time responsible for how we were going to roll out the signing announcement, which happened to coincide with the Congrats project. Kind of day to day, my role varies. I'm actively working on briefs that we get from supervisors and clients for film, TV and advertisement. I'm listening to a lot of music, you know, from our local roster, but also all the catalogues we represent in Australia and New Zealand. Working with the wider team for kind of marketing and comms. You know, when we talk about Ben's music, when I think about the last record, Daisy Chain, you know, as a publisher, we're trying to get the music as soon as possible, as soon as it's done, as soon as it's mastered, so we can kind of sit with the songs and, you know, fall in love with the record and work out where best to kind of pitch the music. And we were recently acquired by Concord. We were previously Native Tongue, and we now have a global team, access to a global team. So one of my kind of focuses this year is finding the new Slowly fans within, you know, our international colleagues. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting some new Slowly fans overseas.
And Ben, do you ever maybe watch a film or see an ad on TV and go, oh, I think something from Daisy Chain would sound pretty good over this?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, we actually got played on the footy a lot last year, which was pretty cool.
You a footy fan?
Yeah, in finals footy actually we got a bit of play, which was cool. Yeah, I mean, I think probably moving more into that space where sync will be a more important part of, you know, our income and you know, but it's in the past it's like, I think our first record had no choruses on it.
Yeah.
You know, like we weren't a sync band.
Yeah.
Like we recorded it and mixed it ourselves. Like, and that another mysterious part of the music industry, the sync world. So it's like, but I think most mysterious part. Yeah, it's probably the most mysterious part.
Everyone's trying to find that.
Yeah, but our conversation with Concord and Native is always, that's the icing on the cake. You know, you get to sing, it's like awesome. You know, everybody, you know, let's clink some champagne. But it's like, but it's really that relationship's more about like your network as a songwriter. Like, there's so many people I've met through that is the real value in it. It's like, it spurred me on creatively a million times over, and that's invaluable to me. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll just jump in there for a second and, you know, as publishers, we can never guarantee a sync, and that's something that, you know, on signing a publishing deal you might hear.
Absolutely.
You know, when I think about the work that Concord does as well, the other thing that we're doing is trying to find champions within like the supervisor and client world, and that's kind of where mine and Adam's roles do cross over in that regard, where when Ben and the other Slowly guys are touring, we're trying to get clients to shows and kind of giving, in addition to, you know, servicing their music, giving them an opportunity to see the music live. Because that's when, you know, film producers or music supervisors might really connect with music.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure if I'm trying to pry a secret here, but how far in advance, Adam, are you and Ben working when it comes to booking shows?
Yeah, 12 months generally. Yeah, like, so for instance, they're on tour, the Daisy Chain album tour was in May. That would have been booked and pretty much locked away July last year, I reckon.
Yeah.
Things come up though, like they're doing Groove in the Move, for instance. I mean, I've been working on that. I mean, they were on in 2020 when it got shut down with COVID, but I've been working on Richie Moffat, who's the booker, for like since we started working. It's sort of like just chipping away. You just got to check out this, got to come to this show, they're selling this many tickets. So it's just, everything's a long, slow process to get there. And yeah, I don't know, like, we're looking at a tour in October, like a bigger regional tour in October, starting to think about that now. So 6 to 12 months generally. Depending on how big the moment is.
Yeah, prepared for anything in between.
Yeah, and stuff comes up all the time. There's always like, there's international tours, for instance, as in like supporting the international artist. Sometimes you might not know. Chili Peppers is a good example, right?
Yeah, out of the blue, yeah.
Like a couple of years ago, did a couple of shows with them, and it was like, it's a couple of weeks notice. Sort of thing. Like those things pop up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's very, it's varied.
Yeah, absolutely.
Generally, we're working to album campaigns as well, so we know when the bigger benchmark moments are and what key festivals we're trying to hit when the band's as hot as they could possibly be.
Absolutely. It's also being organised as well, so having your calendar, knowing when, if you're booking yourself, when the festivals are going to be, when these tours are, for maybe emerging musicians trying to do it themselves, they should, that's a good way they can be organised.
Yeah, for sure, and just like, yeah, knowing like, having a plan and knowing what you want to hit and some like big targets that you, if you're a new band and you know your favourite band's touring then, just being, like I said, like being really hot, like in whatever that relates to in the context of your band, but just having the most going on when you're trying to pitch for whatever it is, whether it's just slowly support or whether it's me pitching slowly for a very particular spot at Splendor, just knowing when the right time to go is.
Yeah, absolutely. Ben, particularly with so much success recently, which is fantastic, I'm sure you get a few emails from people that want to be part of the team. How would you believe is the right way to find a person to be in the team?
Yeah. Do you get emails from people who want to be part of the team? Any other booking agents?
Don't tell Adam.
There's never anything like that. I think it's well publicised that we're booking by Forte, but we do get a lot of support slot requests, like a lot, and I usually add them to like a notes app on my desktop. I try and I'm very involved when we're doing picking supports and stuff like that, because I remember it was not too long ago when we were that band DMing and trying to get support slots. So it's like it's not lost on me, but I think like one of the most we're lucky we have like a really strong touring team as well with our staff, like our sound engineer, lighting engineer, stage tech, guitar tech, and we do get requests from time to time for that stuff, but I don't know, it's pretty solid. I can't see anyone dropping off anytime soon.
That's good. That's
it's very solid. We do get a lot, I don't know, we get a lot of support.
Yeah. And when you build your team, is there almost like an order of operations that you think is most important? Is there someone that, do you think a manager is the place to start? Do you think a booking agent is the most important, just to begin with? Did anything come to you when you were starting to get a bit more popularity?
Yeah, we did, like, when it started feeling like there was some traction, and I think, like, unknowingly at the time, when we first kicked off, we played our cards right, and then we were playing quite small rooms, and I had this strange blind confidence, probably extremely unfounded, and so we'd book, some people might feel apprehensive about, say, booking like a residency at like Old Bar. It's a small room, but like to put yourself on the block like that, but we were just blind. Yeah, we'll do a residency at Old Bar. That's like it'll be a good opportunity for our friends to come and have a few drinks on a Tuesday.
Right. Sounds good.
Sounds good, right? But unknowingly, that community and just the people coming and drinking, our friends, and then I still remember the first show at Old Bar. I think it was like the second residency where there were actually people there who we didn't know. And we was like, what the hell are you doing here? Like, who are you?
That's the sign.
Yeah, that's the sign. And then it was a 5-week residency actually. So by the 5th week we were, it sold out. and our past manager Sarah was at that show, and she said, "There's a bit of hype here. Like there's a community. Like we've got something to work with." And so it probably harks back to what Adam was saying. Like you kind of need something, and I think, it's probably not in your control as a young band to, I don't think, get caught up on trying to, secure like a manager and booking agent. Like we need these things so we can start winning. There's actually a lot of power you have in that. You have friends, like you have photographers, you have your videographers, graphic designers, people that can get around your band. You can build this community, and that, it seems basic, but that little foundation is often what gives a booking agent or a manager like that is pricked up in that situation.
Yep.
So yeah, that old bar was a real tipping point, and then I think we sold out Howler just before Adam.
Yeah, I think it was at that show.
It was at that show, yeah. So there is a lot you can do in the lead up, I think. Just you actually need a lot of that blind confidence. You need to have you need to put yourself out there, I think. Yeah. For the team to come, builders, and they all come.
Yeah. It's a good mantra.
Tim, I'll just add to that as well. The other thing that I always say and give advice for is, you need to do it yourself to understand what is expected from a manager or a booking agent. Because if you just expect to hand over your career, how are you going to be able to question them if things aren't going right, or even just be able to have that level of respect for the work they're doing if you haven't at least tried for a little bit to do it yourself?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Again, further than that, I would say that if you're looking for a team, I would probably wait, because it means you're probably not quite ready, because they'll definitely come to you when you're ready. We're listening to new music every single day. That's like, and managers are, publishers are, like everyone's listening to new music, trying to find new acts all the time. So when you build that community, you'll know, because
when a show sells out, people know.
Absolutely, we're well across where even when a show doesn't sell out but it sells well, we just know. We're talking to venues all the time. We're talking, like, that's what we do all day, and my team does that all day. So very across what's happening. So if you're not getting a response, for instance, if you're hitting up agents or managers, it's probably a good indication that there's work to be done.
And similarly, would you agree that the labels, the managers, the publishers, if they can see that you can do it yourself, they're more likely to come?
Oh, absolutely, for sure. Because it just gives, there's nothing worse than starting to work with an artist and then they just take their hands off and go, we're set, we're going to be playing, stadiums in no time. Like, Ben's a great example. Ben works harder than everyone else in his team. Like, that's obviously not as hard as I do, but you know what I mean? But it's exciting for the team, because you're like, all right, we're in this together, as opposed to like trying to just, it's really difficult trying to get an artist engaged if they're not.
I like the one where people often say the artist is in the driver's seat and the rest of the team are passengers, and if the driver drops out, who's driving the car? At the end of the day, it's the artists that we're supporting, and we want them to be involved and passionate and telling us how they want their career to move forward.
I'm very proactive within my team, so like if I have an idea about something, I'll bounce it off everybody. Like it doesn't go through Dave, Batty, our manager. I'll reach out to Adam directly. If I have some new demos I'm excited about, I will go to Jamie or Matt directly. We'll have a coffee. I often am the one that sets the wheels in motion with a silly idea that then comes to fruition later. It's like, you need to be proactive. They have big rosters, these people have a lot to do, so it's like, if you want to stay, a priority, I think that a lot of it sits with you as an artist. You need to be proactive.
And I think there's no real surprise that the most successful artists, for the most part, are the ones that just work hard. That's just reality, I think.
Yeah. We've mentioned Dave Batty a couple of times, who is your manager then. So would you be able to sort of let us know about Dave and what he does for the team and sort of his connection point to the rest of the team?
So, we connected with Dave just under 6 months ago, and yeah, he's just been amazing in the way that he's galvanised everybody. So, like, it's just been, and he has I laugh with Adam about it quite a bit, but he has such a vast network. It's, someone will come up and I introduce them to their wife. And he just he just seems to know everybody, and the resounding sentiment is everybody loves Dave. So it's been really helpful for us. Yeah, he's extremely organised, and yeah, I just it's been great letting go of the reins, so good, and being able to really. He's quite invested in growing, not only say a live component of my career, but I'm getting more and more into producing other people's work and co-writing, and so he chats with Concord quite regularly about how we can build that space, writing camps, doing some overseas writing trips, and just coordinating all of those things. I think when Dave first came on board, I would sort of check in and be like, hey, how's this thing tracking? And he'd be like, yeah, I sent an email about that yesterday, we're waiting,
Yeah.
And it was it took a little bit of teething, but I was like, oh, he's on it. I don't need to be, and that's the sort of relationship that I think is really valuable with a manager, where you can just go, I don't need to be stressed about the trajectory of my career. I can actually just focus on, putting the songs into the machine, and then they will come out in the right order on the conveyor belt. Yeah.
Organisation sort of seems to be the name of the game today, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really important. I not my strong suit, and it's good.
That's why you got your team. There's probably some really great questions, better than mine, I will admit, out here. So I'll leave you with one last one, Ben, before we open up the floor.
Yep.
It's a bit of a funny one. Do you want to give us maybe one of the most memorable shows you've ever done?
A real so I've had awful stage anxiety for most of my career until Adam touched on it earlier, but the Chili Peppers support was mega. We played up in Hunter Valley at an outdoor scenario, capped with 25,000 people. This thing. Anyway, we played probably 3-4 hours after doors, so it was enough time for everyone to funnel in. It wasn't the traditional sort of opening slot. And this was still around the time where I would say we had I remember our first headline, the Evelyn, I spent the entirety leading up to the show just in my car, just rocking back and forth, or even say Howler before Howler, I was at home cold shower, I really struggled with it, and I was really hard on myself. And then when we played this Chili Pepper support, I grew up completely obsessed with that band, and still am. So it was a huge moment. Their side of stage, Chad Smith, as we walk on, is go slowly, slowly. And I'm just fuck me, this is mega, And it had not dawned on me until that very moment that I was starting the set solo with a solo song. We used to open the set with these 2 songs called Dinosaurs and Extinction. And the entirety, the first song I played to a loop. I have to set the loop, sing it to a loop. It's stressful, right? And it hadn't dawned until I walked on stage oh, that's what I have to do now. And I think
there's Chad.
Yeah, there's everybody and there's everybody, so it was and I think just something just kind of broke in my head about, and it's been a really, everything's felt a little bit more effortless after that. And so, I guess with shows, anyway, the moral of the story is I think you have to throw yourselves into those situations that are like completely terrifying, because the threshold for your fear, your stage anxiety, or even how you perform, it changes with every show. And anyway, I'll always remember that one because it made everything else pale in comparison, fear-wise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. All right, Jenny will be roving with the mic. So, if anyone's got a question, pop your hand up, and I'm going to be quiet.
Oh, lots of questions. Here you go.
Thank you so much. And just thank you all so much for this beautiful event. It's been really great to just hear you speak. So thank you for your time. I have a question. It's primarily for Ben, but I'm open to everyone's feedback if you've got thoughts. But I feel like when you're emerging as an artist, there's definitely things you've got to do to tick off to kind of establish yourself as something. But I feel like once you kind of tick those boxes, it becomes so much more of a vast space of opportunity, and it feels like there's like 10 different paths that you could follow. And it can, I don't know, after just talking with peers who are kind of at the same point, it can feel a little bit like lost of where you should go, whether you should try to like really focus on performing as much as you can and performing everywhere, or whether you should focus more on releasing consistently, or both. And I was just wondering whether you ever experienced that kind of point earlier on in your career where you kind of had to start really driving as a DIY musician, and what you decided to focus on, or what you would suggest for upcoming artists to really kind of hone in.
Okay. Yeah, it's that. I guess you do have a bit of almost like decision paralysis early on, because as things start to open up in your world, you go, what sort of yoga? Hey. No. Yeah, I guess you have to decide what sort of artist you'd like to be, and when you're in that more DIY part of your career, it's like, because everything passes through you, everything sort of has your branding on it in some way if you have a clear idea of what you want to be. I don't know whether like I feel entitled to give advice on. I can only speak to like how our trajectory went. So, but like, because the advice of play everything, you know, like say yes to everything, that might really hone your stagecraft. I mean, but again, maybe you're oversaturated. Maybe you're saying yes to shows where, you know, you should be a main support, or even you should be headlining that venue, but because it's your mates, and so you might go, okay, yeah, we'll open for you for $50, but maybe that's the moment where you should stick to your guns and say, no, actually, we can't do that because we're at a point where we should probably be headlining that venue. So there is like a strange decision-making process, like growing pains, I guess, through that. So as much as I say yes to everything and, you know, be open to playing some shows that nobody shows up to, you know, because they're important. I think too, you have to really kind of know your worth, and I hope I've answered your question. So I'm rambling a little bit. In those early stages where you have to decide what sort of artist you'd like to be, have some. It's nice to have some good, solid sounding boards around you as well, because as an artist, you're very close to everything you do, and you can maybe be very passionate about something that's maybe, you know, a no-brainer or something, and that's where someone like Adam is like so valuable to me, because like his line as a booking agent is pretty blurred. Like I'll send him most demos. Like at the end of a songwriting day, I have a demo, I'll send it to Adam to get his 2 cents on it. And that's just because I really respect his ear. But if you have some people that you really trust, the sounding boards, I wouldn't, like using that little think tank can really help navigate that part of your career, because there were times when we'd get offered, you know, an awesome support slot, but the fee was rubbish. We were going to lose so much money doing the show, and it took someone like Adam, you know, a good sounding board, even when he wasn't our agent, you know, just as a sounding board, like if you have a good friend who has a good business mind for this stuff, as an artist, they're invaluable to you for navigating that path. I hope that makes sense.
That's so useful.
Okay, amazing.
All right, hands up now. I'm Ruben.
Hi. This one's for Sabrina, but everyone can jump in. So you were mentioning that things kind of sort of changed in 2020 because of the pandemic and everything's online. Artists are getting discovered on the Clock app a lot these days and stuff like that. And I've been talking to a couple of people, and they've been noticing that this trend where a publishing entity would kind of sort of sign the song rather than signing the artist. It's the one song that's getting circulated and stuff like that. Like, we've been noticing a couple of our friends having like that, being approached with that kind of deal and stuff like that. Like, Kitties has a thing, and we have a sound that's going around, right? What do you think about those kinds of new age relationship between a publishing company and a songwriter? Just to kind of push a song rather than the song.
Yeah, look, I think that could work for some entities, could work for some artists, but I am very much of the belief that we're in it for the long run. You know, we're working with songwriters and we want them to be able to, 10, 15, 20 years on, still be doing what they love and supporting all facets of their career, not just one song that might have done pretty well. And yeah.
Questions? Oh, yes. Thank you. This is a question to all of you. Just speaking to the women and for the women in the room, there seems to be a lot of urgency and desperation to reach some sort of success once you're out of your early 20s, because the clock's ticking in terms of who we see reach success for women over a certain age. It doesn't seem to be a lot in the industry. I was wondering if you think that's true within the Australian industry, or is it different to international?
Look, there's been a lot more comment around that, I feel, especially in the last 12 months. For the industry that I work in, at the end of the day, it's about the song. So it's not really, your age, gender, that doesn't really fall in part of it. The only kind of note I would have to say to that, across all, areas of the industries, we need to be supporting one another more and giving more opportunities for voices that aren't often heard to be in these spaces. And I feel very proud to be representing Concord, where a lot of our staff are female, and it's not just men.
I guess I can speak to it a little bit in the context of live. I guess a lot's been spoken about with Triple J seeming to age out women a lot earlier than men, and I think that's that's just a fact that it's been happening for a while. As they're becoming I think a little bit less important or a little bit less powerful within the Australian music industry, I think we'll hopefully start to see that change a little bit. It's hard to say, but it seems like they were the gatekeepers around festivals and touring, and I think that as things like TikTok or whatever streaming becomes more important, has more weight on the touring side, Triple J have a little bit less importance, I think, there, and then that should see a shift, hopefully.
We have a question up the back.
I think this question is more for Sabrina. I'm not an artist, I'm more of a kind of writer, producer. I was kind of wondering what advice you would have for like a writer, producer to get more opportunities to maybe get like sync work and actually work with artists. And like, do you guys like have writer producers on your roster that just do the kind of the background work and work with the artists how do you get to the next level before you get to Katy Perry?
I went with a name that I thought everyone in this room would know. Yeah, look, we definitely have writer-producers that are on our roster, and I feel like, especially in the last 2-3 years, it's been an area that Concord, especially in Australia and New Zealand, has been developing more. My advice there would be, it's about building your catalogue. So whether you're trying to approach a publisher, you know, an emerging artist to work with, even a sync agent, someone who's, you know, not a publisher but works in that space of placing music in film and TV. Maybe look at working to maybe 5 or 10 of your best songs and like working on your elevator pitch. You know, Adam touched on it earlier about, you know, finding the right time to hit up those people. I think be respectful of their time, be really clear in the way you want to communicate what it is you have to offer. You know, you could have 5 of your best songs, you know, be approaching a certain artist that it might be a sound that you're looking to explore more or feel really confident in, and just, yeah, be respectful of their time. And if you're, whether it's, you know, sending an email or calling an office number, don't do it too many times.
Thank you. Hello. I'll just talk. Yeah, thanks for all your contributions. Fuck, I have so many questions, it's kind of crazy. But I guess with the songwriting stuff and songwriters coming to you, what do you look for a song that's already been successful to that point? Or like, say, me as a songwriter, I bring you 5 of my songs that have 1,000 listens on Spotify. I'm like, hey, I want to be a songwriter. Like, is that enough? Or are you like looking across all the platforms, you know, all the little things?
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the two sides. So we've got, you know, someone like Ben who's predominantly an artist but has an interest in co-writing with other people, you know, another side project as well. And then we have the roster of writer-producers who are purely working for other people's projects. I think, you know, if in those 5 songs you pitched initially, one of our initial or first questions would be, we want to hear more. We want to hear the, you know, unfinished demos and what else that you might be working on to kind of give that full picture. If it is, you know, you're going down the path of being purely an artist, then that's where your live shows, you know, streaming numbers kind of help paint the bigger picture as well. And you know, we'd also be asking, if you have a manager, if you have an agent, what is your 12-month plan as an artist? So I think I look at it as the songs are the most important part, but it's also what you as an artist are doing. And Ben was talking about, you know, at the end of the day, he's the one pushing the project, and that's what we want to see. We want to see the enthusiasm and how we as a publisher can get involved and take that to the next level.
Yeah. I actually have a part 2, if I could, for Ben. I enjoyed what you said about the ceiling stuff, the ceiling zone as an emerging artist, and the question was, I feel like I'm in that zone personally. I'm like, I've done heaps of shows, I feel really experienced performing, but I don't know how to get, like, I'm trying to be more selective with what I'm doing, but I also want to release an album, but I don't have enough money. Like, it's just so many things, like, you're trying to balance. And I guess, do you have any tips on how to be strategic when you don't have a team? You have experience, you're trying really, like, yeah, I just don't know what to focus on. I think that also relates to what you were saying too, where you just don't know where to put your attention.
Yeah, I completely relate to that frustrated feeling of not knowing where to begin or how to tackle the problem. And like, I'm a huge fan of that 80s, like, you know, terrible pop psychology of, like, you know, the only thing within your power is, at the end of the day, you're writing. And as I said before, the builders and they will come, like, that's my mantra most days. And so, like, I think just write every day, in like every muscle, and like you get better. And Adam was saying before, you know, if shows start to do well, or I don't know how to put it, like the vultures come out. You know, people like, you know, people want a slice of your pie once the pie is big enough. You know, and in a great way, and it's how the team works. But like, you have to really, all that's in your control as an artist really at the end of the day is the songs that you're putting on the table. And yeah, you just, it's such a grind, I know at that time, but once you, like, something will click, like there'll be a song, something will grasp the attention of someone if you keep at it. I know that it seems unhelpful, but I can only speak from my own experience, but there is no secret on how to garner a team. I think you just have to really focus on who I want to be, what I want to do, and I'm going to like commit to writing every day and then people come, like it just happens. It's the same sort of like terrible advice I realise when like someone, you know, you go through a breakup and someone says, work on yourself, you know, and you're going to find someone, I promise, you know. I understand how like silly it sounds, but you really need to just focus on yourself, because yeah, people come out of the woodwork when they notice you're working hard, you know. People want to be involved with you when you're acting, yeah, like you're taking yourself seriously. I'm not saying you're not though, you know what I mean. I hope it's coming across.
The other thing I wanted to add is that there's not enough managers for the amount of artists that are coming out. And, you know, while managers might be at capacity, like I do it and I know other managers do it, there's a lot of people in the industry that do it. We're mentors. We want to be encouraging the next round of artists and self-managed artists and young managers coming out. So maybe that could be an avenue if you know, trying to find a bit more directional, having someone kind of encourage or suggest new pathways for you. The other one that I'll give a shout out to at the moment is AIR's Women in Music mentoring program. I know that it's closed and they're currently going through the program this year, but that could be another one that you keep on your list. Just yeah, finding people within the industry who might not necessarily be a manager or a booking agent, but can share some advice in the different pathways you could go.
I think just very quickly to that, I've had to think about your question a bit more. I think like when we started, it was around that same sort of culture that was building, that, you know, you release as an artist 2 or 3 singles a year, you know, albums are dead, you know, don't do that. You know, if we would have listened to all the advice that was thrown at us early on, we'd be such a different band. But I had just faith in the people who listen to records. You know, as I said, our first record had no choruses on it, you know, and so I think releasing music consistently, and I still think there's so much weight in that, and like, I just wouldn't put too much weight in other people's opinions. Just like, you really, consistency, and you just, because it's so easy to become discouraged, right? You know, you release something, it doesn't do as well as you'd hoped, and because of that feedback, you know, you don't do anything for 3 months, and then you know, because you're feeling really sorry for yourself, and then like, just fight through that, you know, celebrate the little wins, we're on to the next thing. I'm on to the next thing, you know, before this thing has come out, you know? And that sort of, and Adam knows I work like that, that sort of momentum is like, that's the cogs of slowly, you know, like, we do not let any defeat dictate like how it's gonna go, yeah.
Thanks, Ben. Well, hi everyone, I'm Chris from APRA AMCOS, just introducing myself. Firstly, we're going to wrap this section. We've run out of time for this, so please give a massive round of applause.